And we're live. And hello and welcome along to tonight's show of InspireTalk. This is our second event, actually, our second in a row. And InspireTalk is a event where we're going to connect with people that are interesting. We're going to talk with people that inspire, and we're going to discuss their secrets. We're going to find out what their secret sauce is. And that's what InspireTalk is all about. We'd like to deliver this sort of content to you watching the show. And we're very excited tonight because we have a fantastic guest all the way from South Africa. I'm going to introduce you to that guest very soon, but before I do, I want to introduce you to the other hosts of the show. First and foremost, we have the entrepreneur and business coach, founder of Elder Call, and that is Wendy Grenfell. Welcome along, Grendy. Good to see you tonight.
Thank you, Stuart. Really pleased to be here. It's an exciting one today. They're all exciting, of course, but today's is really exciting. Two reasons. Number one, I've worked with this person, and number two, the whole area that he's about to tell you about is extremely exciting. So I'm excited.
Yeah, and I am too, and I'm also excited to introduce our other host tonight, entrepreneur and decisionship coach, and also founder of Creative Entrepreneur. Welcome along, Federico. Good to see you tonight too.
Thank you, Stuart. What a fantastic introduction. Look, it's exciting. For me, I think the word exciting becomes very much a norm in this show because it's the truth. I guess to have Peri on the show is truly inspirational for me because it's stretching the boundaries of the radio program and literally reaching out to the other side of the globe, be it South Africa. So it's going to be interesting to see how the two worlds will connect between talented individuals like all us.
Yeah, totally agree. And look, we're watching InspireTalk tonight. That's where we are. We're coming to you live across the internet. You could be in the States, you could be in Australia, you could even be in South Africa where our guest is tonight. Welcome along. Thanks for joining us. And what I'd like to do is introduce our guest, because we're very privileged to have somebody with such substantial credentials. He's a certified health and fitness instructor, proficient in multiple sports, martial arts instructor, corporate wellness coach as well, and of course he's a complete entrepreneur in his own right. Welcome along, Peri Zourides.
Thanks everyone. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you here too, Peri. Can you just kick us off with telling us a little bit about what you're doing at the moment and how you're building your business life today?
I run a mindful-based center in Johannesburg, and it's a mindful-based health and strength training center in Johannesburg. It's called 7-Star Energy Center. So why we specifically focus on the mindful-based aspect is that when we see ourselves as not just a gym, a generic Virgin Active or Planet Fitness that maybe most people are used to going into. So we're a smaller niche facility, but with my background in martial arts and sports and different modalities, it's influenced our philosophy of training. And we started out specifically as a martial arts school, but through the years things have changed and updated and grown to what we do now. But the focus is around getting people physically strong, but we place an emphasis on what's happening in the mind as well, so that people move better, feel better, and breathe better.
Awesome, Peri. And look, we're interested in all aspects of what you're doing tonight, or today, in actual fact, because I know it's daytime where you are at the moment. But can you perhaps give us a little as to what kicked you off in the direction of what you're doing today?
So I've always been physically active, playing a lot of sport. I'm pretty sure if I was in school nowadays, they would most likely diagnose me ADD because I wouldn't be able to sit still. And finishing school, I continued to play sport. I continued to coach, but all part-time while I went into different industries, ranging from IT, service industry, graphic design, BCom, informatics, yeah, trying different things, but never really finding a real calling. And then had a point where I was working as a graphic designer and wasn't too happy in the industry and with my work, and made a decision to then go into health and well-being and fitness full time, and haven't looked back since. It allows me the freedom to physically move every day, to engage with people and to see them get stronger and to gain more confidence. And just to see also, yeah, the path of where I was when I first went into the work a number of years ago to now, has been great to see, and we're excited about what the future has for us with what we're working on now. So yeah, for me, I couldn't look back. I'm thankful for all the experience I had in other industries and other fields, because they taught me different things, and I met a lot of good people. But yeah, I think in finding what I'm meant to do, yeah, this is it. Other than playing professional sport, which was what I wanted to do growing up, but this is a good second option.
If I can just butt in there myself, actually, and say a few words, what inspires me about Peri, and this is actually something that goes back a couple of years ago when I first met Peri myself in South Africa, when myself and Wendy too travelled there for an opportunity called the Ultimate Growth Adventure. When I met Peri at the Branson Centre, and Peri was undertaking a course of entrepreneurial studies there, what really appealed to me about Peri was his determination, and his unique, personality traits of endurance, of stamina, of vision, and obviously those skills are very critical and essential in the world of sport. But I can also say that those skills are very critical and essential in the world of business and entrepreneurship. So I think those skills that you inherit, Peri, in the sporting industry are very much, useful and pivotal to your success so far as a businessman. So when I first met you, as you know, I had the opportunity to mentor you for a few days there, and it was really exciting to kind of exchange our thought process and how your mind operates and how mine operates, despite the fact that we come from two very different worlds. And two very different business environments. So that was definitely something that grabbed me about you, Peri, and hence why after all this time I've really wanted to maintain this connection with you, because of your willpower and the fact that you want to go places with your business, and as a professional in the fitness industry. So well done.
Thank you, Federico. Thank you.
So yeah, so I guess the other point I wanted to make was, operating a business in South Africa. I'm personally curious to understand what challenges you face running a business in South Africa, and perhaps the type of help or lessons that you got from the Branson Centre to help you set up that business. What was your experience in being involved in the Branson Centre?
If I look at the direction that we're on now, yeah, it's very specific and focused, because of what the Branson Centre instilled in me, and what I keep repeating in terms of a phrase that really stuck in one of the sessions was when one of our facilitators was saying, "Are you working on the business, or are you working in the business?" And as simple as that sounds, and might be kind of logical to apply, for me specifically, being in the field that I am, where I'm working with people either in a one-on-one session or in a group session, I'm consistently working in the business, which allows very little time for growth in any other type of way. And so while there's absolutely reward in my work, the hours become long, and like any work, obviously it can tire you. And that shift of going to the Branson Centre and starting to put those things into perspective of, if I now have a clear vision, a clear mission, a goal that I want to work towards, I've got to start working actually on the business, and that means pulling myself away a little bit or getting a little bit of additional help. So the guidance that the Branson Center offered was good because it was very practical. It wasn't just stuck in theoretical books and textbook after textbook. The center also doesn't believe in exams because then they believe that people are only studying the work for examination purposes. So they put you under more of a real-world situation, whether it's doing presentations in front of the rest of the group as to how you'd present to potential investors. Obviously, opportunities like the boot camp that we went on, that just open you up to not only meeting new people, but then seeing, well, if I do want to take these steps with whatever my business is, whatever the service is, these are actual practical ways to do it. And for me, not having gone to a formal business school for a certain number of years, everything I've learned has been along the way. But certainly what I learned in the Branson Center doing the beginner's course and then the advanced course, just felt that it was more applicable in that I could take what I'd learned almost that day and start to apply it into the business almost immediately. So I'm exceptionally thankful to them and still maintain a relationship with them.
So apart from the learning experience, which clearly has been of significant value to you, Peri, what about the public credential that you've gained out of that experience and that alliance or involvement with the Branson Center, as far as your reputation as a business owner and your ability to attract clients? Do you feel that your involvement with the Branson Center has helped you kind of kickstart and you know, become a bit more recognised in the South African market?
I think, yeah, certainly as soon as the name Branson is associated with anyone, people's eyes will open up. The thing that's different here in our market, you know, as opposed to more developed countries, Australia or certain European countries and the US, is that, you know, coming to a place like Johannesburg or Cape Town, you would think you were almost in any other first world city in terms of infrastructure and, you know, the accessibility of internet and resources. When that comes down to a resource pool of, you know, people who would recognize to say, okay, you've been with the Branson Center and therefore we see some value in it. Yeah, in the sort of biggest cities where people are a little bit more aware, that has been a bit more beneficial. But overall, yeah, because that availability of information isn't as accessible to people, then there are lots of people actually who don't know who Richard Branson is, or the Branson Center. And as crazy as that might seem to us, there's actually a large portion of the population who aren't. So on the one hand, yeah, people have recognized that and say, that's great that you've done work through them. And other times people have been like, Richard who? And then you actually have to kind of explain to them. But it just highlights, yeah, a bit of the environment and the country that we live in, which is quite unique.
That's quite extraordinary. I've got one last question, and I'll pass it on to Wendy. So with regards to the challenges you face running a business in South Africa, what would you say is the number one critical component that you deal with on a day-to-day?
So what we're going into now, because we're going into a growth phase, and one of the hindrances in South Africa, unfortunately, are our labor laws. And the fact that the labor laws can actually be very restrictive and not conducive to business growth, because the labor laws almost overprotect the employee, and obviously labor laws need to be there for all the right reasons. But in South Africa, they've been molded and created to such a point now that it's almost, you know, difficult to let go of somebody if they're not doing the right job, and so that can put a lot of people off in terms of actually employing people. So we're in a phase now, as the center's growing, as we're launching a new program that we'll talk about a bit later, and looking to bring people on and having to actually be very cautious about who we bring on, because you could get stuck with them because it can be hard to dismiss them, or you could actually get taken to a labor court because they feel that, you know, their dismissal is unfair. It sounds like I'm being harsh, that I'm running a, you know, like a strict prison, but living here, one gets a better context of the labor laws. And it's something that foreign investors have even said in the country, is that your labor laws do inhibit growth in terms of a fair split between what's fair for the employee and the employer.
Yeah, I guess that's the last thing you want really when you're trying to, start a business. You need to focus your attention on other areas, not worry about these, these guidelines or protocol. Wendy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I suppose that's the advantage of being local. You're not a foreign investor that's come in and decided to grow a business and has started to try and employ local people. You're really aware of the traps for young players, so that's a benefit. And coming from a human resources background, I'm fascinated by that. I had no idea that was a big, or could be potentially a big barrier, because normally a growth phase is when you start taking on employees, and although working with team members is never easy, there's a couple of other barriers in there. I wanted to say something before I then launch in and ask you a couple of questions, Peri. For the viewers and the listeners, I was with Federico and had the opportunity to go over to the Branson Centre and work at the boot camp with Peri, so climbing up those mountains and doing all those various activities. And I concur with what Fed said. Yes, you're a true professional and you have a beautiful mix of both technical talent and the entrepreneurial talent as well. So I'm not surprised to hear that you are going into a growth phase. Fantastic. My question is, I'm always interested in this. I love the fact that you have a certain niche in the market. As an entrepreneur, we're always being told it's important to stand out. It's important, like Branson, to see the gap in the market and then go and fill it. And I really like that concept where you bring mind and fitness and health and well-being together. So it really is a centre for mindful fitness and well-being. Was there a specific incident, a specific moment of truth, a specific thing that happened that really catapulted you to move forward and be the person that stands for blending mindfulness with fitness and well-being?
I can think immediately to one specific course that I did. So it's known as a muscle activation course. It's a technique that I'm certified in, and it basically points in the body where you might be carrying stress or tension, and that when you would press them or massage them, similarly to what you would do in acupressure or maybe acupuncture, then there's a release in the body, because now the body's been able to actually release some of that tension. But through that course, the thing that really stuck out was whatever is in the mind is in the body, and whatever is in the body is in the mind. And while people might see them as two separate entities, they really are one. So emotions get carried in the body. So for somebody who might physically look really strong on the outside with, the cover model look, emotionally might be really struggling, and actually they're not as healthy as they look. And so starting to look at that and actually get hands-on work through courses and workshops, and as I've learned a little bit more, really pushed me in the way to say that mindfulness is something that carries over into all aspects of what we do, not only the physical training side, but it's an easier way for us to get people to increase that awareness. So that course really started to push me in that direction, open me up to say, there's something really strong here, because I had done some meditation and other mindful work before, but it was actually looking at the integration of how do we incorporate it even into running or lifting weights. You can still be mindful.
Yeah. Okay. That makes me think of another question, and I'd like to help the viewers get a really strong feel for what that actually then translates to in real life. So can you step us through how you might work with someone and what you might do? And maybe I'll give you a beautiful example that you can pull from. Peri worked with my son. My son's training to be a ballet dancer, and he had some physical issues, and Peri kindly worked with him over Skype or Google Hangouts for a couple of times, and it was great in that Peri really did work with the mind, the emotion, as well as the body, so important, and did a few things, but I didn't really sit across that, but I got a general feel for it. So if I was to present my son to you, what sort of things, and let's look at it physically as if he's attending your centre, so he's coming into your centre rather than just over Skype, and he's enrolled for, I don't know, 3
Sure.
sessions. What could you step us through what a 3-session program might look like for my son?
Initially, we'd just start with just a conversation and just to see and hear where the person's at. A lot of what I'm learning is, people will express what's going on, even if they don't directly know it. I'll start to look at things in their posture. So as somebody's talking to me, you start to notice, okay, so they're favoring, leaning to one side or folding their arms one way, and then they complain about getting headaches on one side or getting particular pain on one side. So from that moment, already starting to make them aware of, how they're standing. And the quick side note, the mindfulness is about trying to be present in the current moment with no judgment. And so when you start to bring that awareness to somebody to say, okay, well, this is how you're sitting or this is how you're standing, that they can now start to make those shifts. We will then explain our training philosophy, and at the center we actually have a pyramid up where we explain the training philosophy, and it basically goes through different levels, and at the base of it is practice. And that's really at the foundation, that regardless of what you want to do, what you want to change, it has to come through practice and repetition and awareness. And then it moves through different stages, specifically on the training side, is getting people more mobile, which isn't flexibility. There is a difference. Won't get too technical. And then it's actually getting them to, move a little bit quicker, a little bit stronger. We would initially in the first session actually do a lot of what we see as basic movements, and do a basic movement screen to actually see, well, can you go into a squat? Can you hang from a set of bars? Can you crawl? A lot of stuff that you would actually have done as kids, or hopefully have done as a child, because that's at the movement foundation of how we grow and develop. And when you're moving as a kid, that is your software that you're trying to upload and upgrade. But as we get older, that software gets dated. So what we want to see is, where's a person's software? Are they running with the latest software, or are they still stuck on Windows 95 or MS-DOS software? And then from there start to take the step. We're also checking, do they have any pain? We are not doctors, we're not physiotherapists, so if a person is experiencing pain, we do have to refer them out. And so we'll take those steps in understanding or explaining to a person that regardless of your strength, you could be a triathlete, a weightlifter, or you could be a pensioner, is we're going to start at a slow, low base, because we need to understand your body. You need to obviously understand our training philosophy, and also why we put the importance on these particular movements, and the functionality and how your body should move.
Okay, that's fantastic. That gave me a really concrete understanding of what you do, and I love that pyramid approach too. And I totally get what you're saying around going back to foundations and the software. I remember years ago when I was teaching phys ed, we went and studied a group that were working with academically delayed people, and they took them back to the basics of crawling and all that kind of thing, and that was their way, with amazing results, for helping those children catch up academically, because they did say they might have been kids that walk before they crawled, so they missed that foundation, that strong foundation of crawling, so they'd take them back to crawling. So fascinating, and totally on board with that. I might hand it over to Stuart to then ask some questions to move on a little bit.
Thanks, Wendy.
Thanks, Wendy. So we're having a really enjoyable hangout here this evening, and this is InspireTalk. We have our guest here with you, Peri Zourides, and he's offering some fantastic insights into some of the personal development items that you could put into place to assist yourself to grow and become a better person. And that's what we're all about, really. Ultimately, through our lives, we're spending all this time doing that. And whether we recognize it or not, or whether we're aware or not, this is a process that will continue right to the end of our lives. So, Peri, I just wanted to perhaps go back just a little step. I don't want to cover old ground, but I'm very interested in the concept of where you come from. And you talked a bit about the different things that you tried and the searching for your calling, and then you found your focus and your vision. Can you tell us a little bit about how you formulate your vision and what you do on a daily basis to really make that clear for yourself going forward?
So, to be honest with everyone who's listening, if they think that, yeah, I opened the center and from day one, we had a clear vision and it was full steam ahead from there, it's far from that. I jumped into the deep end with not really much support and had to wade through a lot of deep shark-infested waters, and more so in just understanding why I was doing what I was doing. So more than I enjoy being physically fit and I enjoy working with people, what was it that I'm really doing with my work, rather than just working from month to month. And I have to go back to the Branson Center as being a sort of instigator of that, to give me direction, say, be clear with your vision, be clear with your mission. And that really started to get me thinking beyond just training people one-on-one or in group sessions. For me now, I have a sort of daily morning routine that just gets me into my flow, where when I wake up, I'll normally do a couple minutes of a mind dump, where I just get everything that's on my mind, just get it out. And it's also a gratitude journal. So I do that just to highlight a lot of the things, and there are a lot of things that I'm grateful for and thankful for. So even with work and life stresses that happen, that I'm aware of those. And then I'll normally do depending on the time I have, just a quick 5 or 15-minute meditation. Sometimes that's just to calm my mind, or otherwise there's a specific intent. And a lot of that has been driven now with a greater goal that we have in what we're looking to do with the center, in terms of not only building the center so that there are other centers and they become a model for future centers around the country, but actually in a new program that we've developed and a mobile app that we'll be launching. So there's a lot of purpose in that, and I'm brought back to that each day as I think back to what's happened through the course of the day and the week, and so that daily routine really helps to keep that focus for me.
One thing I want to say, if you don't mind me butting in here, is further to the attributes and skills that you have, Peri. Focus and discipline is certainly something that comes across as being very strong in you, and being an entrepreneur myself and being a coach for entrepreneurs, I always say to my clients, focus and discipline is probably on the top of the food chain, as well as the vision that you have and the passion for the fitness industry. But it certainly comes across as being strong, which is awesome. I just wanted to sort of also ask you the question about your definition to the word game changer, because if we go back to the focus of this show, which is about game changers on radio, I regard you as a game changer. But what is your definition to that, as far as are you pioneering things differently in your industry of fitness? Like, how do you see yourself operating differently to other conventional businesses within your marketplace?
From the center's perspective, we haven't come across anyone else who has the same model as us. Our clients tell us the same thing, that if they have been anywhere else or do go anywhere else, that it's just not the same. It's either just a traditional gym, and that's fine. They serve their purpose, or maybe it's specifically just a meditation center, or a kind of holistic center, and people's immediate images of just people sitting in a lotus position. So the merger that we've looked to do of those two, to say that we can take the hippies and we can take the jocks, and actually we can put them in the same room, is actually okay. It is something that can be done, and we see that as looking to change how people perceive health and well-being, as not only being confined to a gym. A lot of what we do in our work with people is to actually encourage them, don't even think about coming to train with us, think about what you can do on a daily basis, and we take them through a lot of what they can do. The other area that we're looking to change things is a new program that we've developed, which is called JAM, just a mindful minute, so JAMM. And the program came about with my assistant trainer, who's been with me now since the beginning of last year, where we were working, doing corporate work. We were doing mindful-based corporate work. We were going into a company. We were doing sessions with them twice a week. People really enjoyed them, very beneficial. We were doing different breathing exercises and postural exercises and awareness exercises. But we found that then the attendance started to decrease, and when we started to speak with people about why is that, the number one thing that came back is we don't have time. And it's probably the one thing that we hear of in our industry directly: why can't you stay healthy or fit in any way, shape, or form? And it's always, I don't have time. So the previous response would have been like, well, you're lazy, you're making excuses, all of those things. But we looked at it and said, okay, well, if people are actually experiencing this, that they don't have time, or they perceive that they don't have time, what can we do? And so Jam came about, where we actually, one session, we were doing 1-minute drills with people, and they were really surprised at what a difference 1 minute of breathing or 1 minute of a particular activity could do in their alertness, their awareness. So what we've done, and it's been over a year in developing that, is that we've taken the training philosophy from the center, we've taken our experience in different fields, and we have developed a program that is now a mobile app. And we've gone the mobile route specifically because nowadays more and more people are using mobile devices, and more accessible to that, so we can essentially reach people rather than them having to come to the center. And now if you say to somebody, well, you only have to take 1 minute at a time, there's very little room for a person to say, I don't have the time, because everyone has 60 seconds. We've developed activities that you can do at your desk. You don't have to change, you don't need equipment. There's playful activities, and it's not just a fitness app. There's lots of fitness apps out there, and there's lots of mind or meditation apps. But again, we've looked to merge the two to say that they're equally as important. So yes, run around the block, but you should also be able to breathe 4 or 5 minutes. So we're really excited about Jam. We're in a test phase now, where we're finalizing some changes, and we want to launch it within the next few months. And our goal is that by 2018, we have 1 million people daily using the program. And so that's in schools, in hospitals, in corporations, and we'll start in South Africa and then actually look to launch globally.
That's very, very inspiring, Peri, and certainly innovative. And I think I take my hat off to you for that type of thought process and hard work that goes into doing good for the community and pushing your business to a whole another level of performance. As an entrepreneur myself, I know that my world is hectic. Yes, I don't have time, and it can become my biggest curse to not be as fit as you. And probably it's not something I want to say on radio because it's open to the public, but I think there's a huge potential for your business to really target the entrepreneurial, business owner who's typically, lousy or perhaps lazy with sport and puts all his or her focus towards, running a business rather than looking after their health. So I think there's a strong market for you, Peri, with regards to entrepreneurs like us.
Yeah, I've done a little bit of work at the Branson Center already with doing a little bit of mindful-based work with the existing group of entrepreneurs, and that was just to introduce them to some of the topics and really to highlight to them that, you are the face of your business. So if you are ill, if you're off work, well, kind of everything not necessarily stops completely, but there's so much that runs through you. And a lot of top executives or people who run very successful companies, one thing that they do highlight for themselves is their own physical well-being. They might not necessarily be the fittest people, but they understand how important their health of mind and body is in what their business is doing, so that they can run a successful, whether it's a Fortune 500 company or just a successful startup that started recently. So that's what we're also encouraging people to do, and certainly, there's massive benefit for entrepreneurs.
That's fantastic, and I look forward to seeing those results happen and transformation in your business as you keep growing.
Thank you.
What you're talking about is it comes back to awareness, and I know that Wendy spends a lot of time working with young people just leaving school and themselves becoming aware on a number of fronts. Wendy, do you want to perhaps talk about something like that, or did you have another question for Peri?
Well, that's interesting. I have actually moved away from working with young professionals now for lots of reasons, but funnily enough, they still come onto my radar because I certainly embrace and love working with them. So organically they just appear, and I still work with them even though formally I'm not. And I would like to say yes, I hadn't really thought about it as we were talking, but now that you've just raised that, yes, one of the most powerful things that I do when I work with young people who are a little bit lost, they've left school, they're at uni, they might not be happy with the courses they're doing, or they're just about to leave uni but they don't know still what they want to do when they grow up, is I've started to develop a package where I do absolutely combine some mindfulness stuff with some career management techniques, and the power in that toolkit or that process that I run them through always comes back to that mindfulness, that stillness, and then pulling out from within. So it's almost like it is mindfulness, but it also then taps into the soul, and it uses the physical stuff. So it pulls forward what's already in there, and they just needed that still environment and that process of mindfulness to pull out what was already inside. So yeah, once again, an example of the power of combining physical with emotional, with mental, with soul, with stillness, and the whole lot. So yeah, I think it's great. And you were just talking about the app before too, Peri, and I thought that was a really good entrepreneurial example of, you talked in the beginning about working on the business, not just always in the business, and that's another beautiful example of combining passive income streams with active income streams. So it's not just about the active dollar, but it's also thinking long term about the passive streams of income, which is important too. And I just want to add one other thing. You were talking about the paradox of South Africa not necessarily always knowing who Branson is. I thought it was quite funny when we were flying over to join you on the Branson Centre program, and we couldn't fly any Virgin carrier whatsoever because Virgin didn't fly into South Africa.
Yeah, we're a country full of ironies.
Yeah. So do we need to kind of wind up and ask last questions, a bit like, you know, last drinks when we're at the bar? Do we need to do one final round, or how are we going for time, Mr. Timekeeper Stuart?
Yeah, no, we're going pretty good. But I did want to ask Peri one question, if you wouldn't mind, perhaps divulging to us, especially to our listeners. What would be the 3 key elements that you would say are first and foremost to being successful in anything you do in life, or if you're going into business for yourself? What 3 bullets would you provide our audience?
You know, so often we'll hear about you know, do what you're passionate about, or kind of do what you love, and the money will follow. Those are Richard's words. I challenge that a little bit. You know, I believe that yes, there should be a certain passion that you have for your work. It might not necessarily be your true calling, but you know, you can be successful in what you're doing. Maybe it's not the restaurant that you wanted, or you know, kind of the clothing line that you wanted, but any work that you wanted to. So I think that there should be passion brought to each day, and for me, that comes down to the stillness that Wendy talks about, in that, do you actually give yourself some time during the course of the day to think about what's going on, to think about what you want. You know, so much of what we see when we work with people is that their lives are so busy, they don't actually have a chance to necessarily sit down and give themselves some time to think about that. So the stillness is really important. The second thing would be in gratitude. That for me has been personally highlighted with some personal loss that I've gone through this year. That's just reflected on what's happening with my work and my life. And I think for all of us, it's very easy to complain about, well, I'm not working in this place, or I don't have this and I don't have that. But actually to step back from that and look at what we do have, because there's normally a lot more than we think. And all that does is it just puts you in a very present moment, that whether it's work, whether it's just being grateful that you do have work, that you can actually do the best with your job, whatever that might be, whether you're working for somebody else or not. And the last thing, really, and this is from the base of our training philosophy and from years of martial arts practice, is the repetition and that practice. There's nothing that can shortcut that. Even though you might have a great idea, it's going to take practice and refinement. So the stillness, gratitude, and practice, if those can be incorporated into a daily routine for someone, I believe in that you can find what your passion is, what your
Awesome, Peri. Thanks very much for that. And what we are going to do, as Wendy said, we're going to do a little roundup at the end here. So while I ask you all to perhaps prepare for that, I'll just run through very quickly those key things that Peri's provided us, because I think they're actually gold nuggets and very different from what we've had before. I think everyone will agree that we've had a lot of really good insights here, but these four are really tops. So first one is to have passion, and it sounds like a cliche, but passion is vitally important to anything you do. Peri talks about having time, or having stillness is what he's really referring to, and just taking the time to stop and become aware. Have gratitude, be grateful for what you have now, and that's actually really good exercise in itself, just to take time and take some calmness into the situation, and forget about what you're striving for, and just focus on what you have and where you are now. And finally, repetition and practice. And I know that I'm constantly at my son to practice his piano, but I tell you, it's paying dividends. So I know for a fact that this is one of the key elements of any success that you'll ever achieve in your life, is repetition and practice. And Federico, I'll bring you into the conversation, because I know you're heavily involved in practice and repetition, and very successful at it. So,
well, Stuart, I'm laughing because you've mentioned piano practice is challenging. Try violin practice, and my son plays the violin, and it's torture seeing him, finding a million excuses why he doesn't want to do violin. So yeah, discipline and hard work is definitely key. I guess just to finish up, I just wanted to say thank you, Peri, for being on this show tonight. I'm extremely grateful for your time and for your words of wisdom, and I'm sure that the listeners will find that of extreme value. Equally, I hope that this show has been of value to you. It's always been my determination and my vision to provide this sort of platform to people like yourself around the world who want to voice a message, want to be heard, and hopefully this forum provides you that opportunity, and also to have it available to other people within South Africa who are obviously in need. And as an Australian business operator, I hope that this program keeps expanding and opening up to new shores around the world. So, Peri, thank you. Thanks again.
No,
also, Wendy? Oh, sorry, Peri.
No, just thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So over to me. I'm very grateful, concur with everything that the others have said. Thank you so much. It was great to listen to your story, for you to describe your journey as an entrepreneur and as a person, carving out a business and using your gifts. And I just love generally the rich conversation around stillness, mindfulness, physical activity in the context of health and well-being. So yeah, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to interview you today. And my last question would be, and I know you've already given so many people so many words of wisdom, but what would you say to a startup entrepreneur, startup business owner that is just about to step forward and start his or her career and business in the fitness and well-being industry? Any one piece of advice or one thing to avoid?
A major change that I've made recently that is helping me quite a lot is being specific about my time. In industry, time is of utmost importance, and especially peak times. People want to train either early morning or later in the evening. Especially starting out in the industry, and as you get involved, is you sort of end up seeing people at different times of the day, because you're working for your money. So you might see somebody at 11, you might see somebody at 1 or 3, and that becomes quite disruptive, because going back to working on the business is that if I now see somebody at 11, I have a quick break, I try and work on a couple things, and then I've got to leave for another client. There's always this disruption. Actually, something I've done quite recently is to block my time off, where now I don't see people in the afternoon anymore, because we're only going to be doing corporate work and kids work. Now, that model might not specifically work for some people, where actually they would be better only seeing people in the afternoon. But the point being is that even from early on, I would encourage people starting in the industry is start to specify your hours, and don't only work to chase the money. Is you might have one or two clients that are unhappy that you can't see them at a specific time, middle of the afternoon. But unless they're willing to pay a very premium rate, almost double of what you would normally charge, be specific with that, because what that time during the course of the day allows you is an opportunity to think, an opportunity for time for yourself, which is important because in our industry we give so much of our physical energy and so much of our time to others, and that if you have bigger plans of expansion or whatever it might be, you actually have the time to work on it and aren't bouncing back and forth between sessions, because it's very disruptive to see a client maybe have a small gap and then an hour later see somebody else. You can't really get into the right workflow. So that for me has been quite a big change, and something that's making a difference, especially now as we're close to launching JAM and we're going to be doing more work at schools and corporates, is that I won't be able to see people in the afternoon. So be specific with your time, and don't be afraid to block off time and to tell people these are actually my hours, and unfortunately if you can't fit in those hours, these are my reasons, because I'm working in the business.
Brilliant, brilliant. That is so perfect, and certainly you could apply that to many other industries as well, but that just makes so much sense. Yes, be proactive, structure it around you, and it's almost like training the client to fit in, because you're right, otherwise you end up, it's disruptive for you, it's a disservice to you long term for your business, and it just makes so much sense. Yeah, so thank you. Perfect words of wisdom to end on for startup entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Great question and great answer too, Peri. Really appreciate you being on the show. We've been in InspireTalk today with Wendy, Federico, and our guest, Peri Zourides. Really like to thank you very much, and with that, we're going to wind out the show. See you again soon, next week in fact. Thank you, bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.
See you later. Bye.
Thank you, bye-bye.